AI, it is a powerful tool. It speeds up research, it automates processes, it can aggregate and summarize a large amount of data.
We starting to push a lot into AI.
These models have the capacity to fine-tune to generate a proper malicious payload.
It's a cat and a mouse game here. Multiple models, each one designed for a specific type of threat. I think the probably next big thing will be the agentic AI.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Cybercrime from the Frontline. This is Dan Berthe, your host, and today we're going to talk about AI. I have with me today Dragos, Christina, and Alex. I'm going to let each one of them introduce themselves, and I'm going to start with Dragos, who you've probably seen before. Welcome.
Welcome. It's good to be here. Hello, Dan, and thank you for having us here. Hello, everybody. I'm Dragos Gablitz. I'm the Vice President of Threat Research here in Bitdefender. I pretty much handle a lot of technologies, and ultimately we have to work with AI. If it's to protect against it, if it's to fight against it, it's something we need to do. Christina.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christina. I'm a senior manager in post-breach forensic investigations and attack research. I mostly, together with my team, study the most advanced attacks that happen worldwide.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Alex. I'm a manager for a team called Machine Learning for Security Analytics, and we're mainly tasked with building automations and detections using AI for various types of threats.
Thanks so much for the intro. So, as I said earlier, today's subject is AI, artificial intelligence, the hot subject of the moment, but more specifically, AI attacks. Now, of course, what we're talking about today when we think about AI is LLMs, and the general context of the public is the understanding of ChatGPT and similar technologies. But of course, AI has been used in cybersecurity and attacks for longer than of course, the previous year. So would you mind walking back in history a little bit and kind of giving some examples how we've worked with AI in the past and what we've seen, and then we can come back to the present day and look at how that changed?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, actually, for us, the story started, I think, 17 years ago when we actually added our first AI model that we use in our products. And it was quite a very interesting story. So one clear observation about the power of AI was we were, looking at a, malware family that was actually targeting our detection, meaning that it's a cat and a mouse game here. So whenever we adjusted our generative detection to detect new version of that family in roughly 1-2 days, they created a new version that will somehow evade our detection. And we never knew exactly how they did this, but we kind of estimate that they reversed some of our technologies and tried to understand some of the changes, some of the types of detection that we were adding there. And this is how they were actually able to protect themselves, to avoid our detection. Now, the moment we added the first model, and by the way, it was like a small model, but it was the first one. The first thing that we actually observed is that they were kind of able to adjust their detection and try to avoid it in roughly 2 weeks. So that's a very big jump from 1-2 days to 2 weeks. And that actually told us that, hey, we're into something. Now, from that moment on, we starting to push a lot into AI. So not one model, multiple models, each one designed for a specific type of features, each one designed for a specific type of threat. That's one thing. The other one, we also try to create some models that will, to a degree, detect the same threat. So, it's like a layer security. So you're able to avoid one layer, but then the other AI that, covers in the backend will still detect it. So you still have to go from one layer to another layer and so on. Ultimately, there isn't a perfect security solution, one that has 100% protection, but there are some security measures that could actually be very efficient in time. So that was one thing. Now, obviously, we started to diverge. We started to combine models. So from very simplistic one, try to combine some of them, started to design some models so that they are very specific and targeted to some of our tasks. think about it. A model has to be fast. At least back in that days, you didn't have very powerful computers. Now you couldn't, afford false positive. Also a very critical importance. So you have to have some sort of models that are actually going to be able to detect just, the malicious content and pretty much avoid the, everything related to, the clean data set. So we actually had to design our own models. That was the solution, because most of the models were designed to be generically good, meaning that I'm going to correctly, assess most of the samples, even if it's something malicious or something clean. But we were in particular, interested in making sure that we have fewer false positives. So we had to design a different training method, different type of models that are actually going to adjust this. And, just to summarize, I know that today's meeting is on new AI. Some of these models are still very effective. For example, maybe many of you don't know, but there is a ransomware family. It's called Venus ransomware. It's not, let's say, something too prevalent, but we were able to detect, I think recently a version of this family with a model that we trained 13 years ago. That was a really cool stuff. So pretty much it kind of shows the proactivity power of such a model and the genericity if we're talking, because obviously we couldn't know back then how a ransomware, or even if a ransomware will actually exist at that point. So that was an interesting story for us, and it's not the only one. Other type of ransomware, for example, this is where we tend to observe, were detected with models from, design, like 3, 4, 7 years ago, from the moment we actually detected them. So yeah, it's cool stuff in this.
It's fascinating, and thanks for the examples of going back, and of course it progressed a lot over the years. And you said maybe some of these models are still being used today, right? So let's go to the present day, but making a transition. So how have you received? What have you seen to today's new models from both the standpoint of the defender, so like ourselves, and the attackers? What's changed, and how has? And of course, it's a generic question, but it's a good conversation starter. So what's the biggest things that we've seen over the last few years from the standpoint of defenders and attackers from the new models and the improvements in both technology and models alike?
Okay, so generically, and that's merely a generic thing, I don't think that AI was not used for several years by, let's say, the bad guys. It's a little bit harder to assess this. However, the new generative technologies actually provides like a lot of let's say techniques that they can further use. And as far as I know, there are several types of attack that kind of benefit from this perspective, especially some sponsor state attacks that are actually going to heavily rely, at least in terms of an assumption. Again, we cannot know for sure that they actually use it, but it's the way that the Orbit kind of infer this conclusion. However, I will actually let Christina talk about more about this nation state attacks, but maybe with the emphasis on how potentially AI technology was used in the backend.
Yes. So first of all, it's very difficult to confirm that threat actor uses AI or a part of the attack done by a threat actor was actually generated by AI. But it is okay to assume that they don't have any reason not to use AI, because AI, it is a powerful tool. It speeds up research, it automates processes, it can aggregate and summarize a large amount of data. So they do not have any reason not to use it. In terms of nation state and nation state sponsor attacks, in this case, they have generous resources. So they are able to have an in-house LLM that they can train for different tasks because they have the resources. But again, this is an assumption that we can make because of this revolution in technology. There are some examples which are covered in press that kind of confirm that some of these threat actors are using AI, and there are threat actors all around the globe. It's not a single state that focuses on this. So, for example, the very well-known APT28 Russian threat actor is using AI for researching certain subjects that are very technical, that are very niche. For example, studying satellite communication protocols or radar image rendering. And this suggests that they are preparing for cyber physical attacks, or they are gathering intelligence for military operations in Ukraine because of the political context that Russia has with Ukraine. So they are using AI as an assistant for technical researches in order to better understand these very complex technical subjects. Another example is from North Korea, which is the Kimtsuki threat actor. They are known to target experts in national matter subjects. For example, it is supposed that they use AI to retrieve targets and to list experts from the nuclear program of North Korea. Also, they used AI to generate phishing emails, very specific, very accurate, in order to trick the victims to further develop the attacks. Another example is from Iran, which is another APT threat actor named Sandstorm. They use AI as hacking training. For hacking training, they interrogate an AI model to learn on how to evade detection once it's inside a network, which is compromised, or how to generate pieces of code that could interact with remote servers. So they use AI to learn about these hacking steps that they can do once a victim is compromised. And lastly, we have China, which we know that they are very focused in AI developments. Here, the examples are fewer. They are more discreet, but the hackers, which are, to believe nation-state affiliates, Salmon Typhoon and Carcoal Typhoon, I think they're called, they use AI in order to translate phishing baits in multiple languages so they can seem very natural. We know that
Historically, the issue was that they just didn't sound legitimate.
Exactly.
And now they can make them perfectly
They can
localized.
make them perfectly, and they can trick the victim to believe that they're actually talking to a superior, for example, and they could reveal sensitive information from it. So we still have a cat and mouse game that Dragos mentioned earlier, but with AI, things just leveled up.
Yeah, so what I would add on what Christina said is these threat actors, now that they have AI, a more powerful AI with all the recent developments, they just have the massive ability to scale and to go with target attacks much more rapidly and adapt to new circumstances much more rapidly. So it's harder and harder for them, for a defender to act and adapt as quickly as they adapt when they attack.
But at the same time, that's the opportunity, in fact, and of course, that's for the threats. But what are we doing, or how does it look from our standpoint? How's the new generative AI helping us staying ahead of the game? What are the changes that we're seeing from the inside on that front?
So yeah, when it comes to the defense part, generative AI can be really helpful kind of everywhere. So of course, we're doing the same thing as any other software company. We're using our generative AI to more rapidly develop our code base and our software base, but we're also using generative AI to analyze large amounts of data and to draw more conclusions or easily draw conclusions on that large amount of data. So we're constantly trying to see where we can insert generative AI to come up with a quicker response relative to our previous stack of technologies. One example in our application is using generative AI for the SOC team. So we're enabling their faster response when it comes to analyzing incidents for our clients. And they have the ability to, using suggestion from the generative AI, to more quickly validate if an incident is true or not, and intervene so that the attack doesn't spread in the client's organization.
Because generally this has been the issue, and I don't want to open that kind of worms just yet, but the issue has always been the balance between the verbose, and how many flags, how many reports we can shoot out, because all the events that happen on all the endpoints. And right now we can power charge that analysis by just empowering some AI and relieving some of the human input on giving a much better quality result, for sure. So, I mean, it goes to say, without, it's definitely a fact of life right now that pretty much every new aspect of releases that we'll be seeing in the industry for the next few years are probably going to be related to generative AI in some shape or form. Looking forward, right? I would assume that just so much that we can, speed up and just even catch up with the bad guys. So, knowing that, do you believe that we've caught up to understand where we're at as an industry currently? Do you think we've, mastered and matured and understood, okay, this is, what this is going to be used for, and now we can build on? Or are we still at the level of researching and understanding where we're going with the new tools available?
So I think that for the moment, skills are still developing.
Okay.
So, for example, even if you're looking on how many models are there on Hugging Face, the number actually increased daily. So there are still developments here. Now, if we're looking in trends, you're going to actually see that things like code vibing and so on, those are machine learning trends related. And I'm not going to go into this, but there are still a lot of areas where people it's still developing actively. I think the probably next big thing will be the agentic AI. That will actually change a lot of things for everybody, even if it's right now more like a generic concept, but applied for every security company will change a lot. With this in mind, we need to understand from a security standpoint of view how things are going to change. And we like to think about this in terms of the attack surface. Because, knowing that nobody's using AI means, no attack surface related to AI. But knowing that AI is going to be adopted in a lot of other sectors, not necessarily security, means that there are going to appear a lot of other, let's say, AI-related potential issues that an attacker might use. One very simplistic example will be you're starting to use AI. You have to train it because you want to, automate one of your, production lane or something like this. And it is based on some of the feedback that you get from your customers. And, instead of trying to go through everything related to a support team, you're just using an AI. Maybe that AI is using some agents. Those agents are going to try to analyze the input, try to perform some automated actions, maybe fix some bug if this is the case, provide you with an answer, and so on, which is great. But let's, try to go a little bit deeper. The moment the first services appear, where everybody was using a service where you can query a database, this is where SQL injection came into place, right? The moment people understand that, hey, I can just create like a command that will always be true, and then add something else after that command, I can actually list the data and so on, some type of attacks appear. So I'm kind of certain that something, not like SQL injection, but something similar in the same thing is going to appear here. So if you know that, there is an agent there that, that agent is going to change some of the code base, maybe query some of the databases, maybe use them to provide you some answer, then if you know how to do a proper prompting there, maybe you can do like a lot of damage there. Maybe you can, I don't know, ask the LLM to drop some databases there and, affect the entire company's workflow. So what we truly expect is that things are going to evolve. The security will have to evolve with them. And it's not just evolving with them. It's evolving in terms of understanding the attack surface. And that's a, very powerful thing that, everybody needs to consider, because adopting AI doesn't come without any type of risks. You need to have the proper personnel that understands how AI works so that you can better prepare yourself for that type of risk.
And I don't think we're there yet, for sure. And to be fair, like I think we're still at the point where we're trying to understand what the new AI means. Generative AI is still fairly new, and I think we definitely haven't crossed the chasm in the sense that, still early adopters, be it consumers or businesses, that we're still using the tools. And the internet is filled with activity where people are trying to do different red teaming on different models currently. And the results are sort of egregious, as one would expect, because they're all new. And in fact, the last example that I can think of, and I'm sure you have more, is, and I can't remember the model and I can't remember the researcher, but I think it was something the likes of somebody just silly prompted the model to give them what they need to create some sort of bond, I believe. I think that was one of the example, and there was all the information available was given, and that's just the silliest kind of a low level
thing that can be done.
That can be done, and I presume.
But you can think about something even more. How many people actually are using ChatGPT or Gemini or something similar?
Yeah.
And now, I'm going to assume that, a lot of them are using.
Sure.
And now let's start with another. What are you using it for? Because it's likely that you're using it for, work-related thing. So based on this, how many of the people are potentially leaking some information to the model when they are asking something? So, just starting to think like this will actually showcase how large the potential problem, at least in terms of privacy and data, could be here. Now, sorry, Christina.
Sorry, and to add that most of the people use inside the company ChatGPT, but the free license. So
Of
it's
course,
not
and
even the on-prem version
No,
of it.
and to be fair, like a lot of companies probably don't even have a proper
Exactly.
guidance yet on how to even use the tools. I know there's conversation in the industry where people are, kind of figuring out right now, okay, at least don't use the tools for now, or just, but of course we're looking at the promise of local models that would provide some sort of privacy that whenever we we don't share private information from a corporate or personal standpoint, so that's coming in the near future. Maybe we're going to have those, but that's not going to be the general.
No, for a small and medium business.
Right. So looking at this, I'd say we're still in the infancy. I think there's still a lot to adjust, and that's why I think the opportunity is there for attackers, but at the same time, there's an opportunity to defend. So kind of knowing that, I'm just going to ask you, what's the point where we're at? What's our preoccupation concerning where we're staying today, or what's our best recommendations? How are we treating this? Because again, whatever we say now might be completely obsolete in 3 months, but is as relevant as always to discuss it now. So
okay, so obviously my first recommendation will be to try to understand the technology. Don't just use it without understanding it, because this will clearly shape the future. The other one is try to understand the technology in a context. That's also very important. Why? Because while right now there are a lot of models that are, let's put it like this, designed for general purpose, you can ask them everything. I'm pretty sure that, in the near future, models designed for very specific tasks, and this will be related with agentic AI, are going to be developed. Actually, I remember a talk I had with Alex where he was telling me about models that were actually designed to be used by malicious encounter, WormGPT and
the most usual commercial models have some built-in guardrails when they are trained, so that they don't generate content that might be harmful or maybe used in malicious purpose with a malicious purpose. So, of course, as it would be expected, there are trained models now on the dark web. With $60, you can get access to them. It's kind of cheap, actually. And these models have the capacity to really fine-tune to generate proper malicious payloads. So you can easily prompt them, and they will generate a really high-quality malicious payload, so you can move fast and maybe adapt perfectly to the attack you're doing in that moment. So they're so powerful that you can use them during the attack. I mean, the attacker is right there with an SSH connection to a company, and they can use this to propagate the attack further without too much delay. So,
and without the need to study the techniques needed for the attack.
Yeah, they can they can also really automate things using these models, because you gather as much data from your victim as possible and then just feed it automatically to the LLM, and hey, please generate the next payload so I can propagate faster. So, and they are capable so they will do that.
So, and that's a great example. I want to dispel two myths. I believe there's some sort of expectation maybe that generative AI and AI in general is a fad, and it's going to be a bubble that's going to be burst. So
yeah, it's here to stay. It's definitely here to stay.
It's going to be, it's here to stay, right? Yeah. So let's just not imagine it's going to go away, and just assume that it's going to be here to stay and prepare for it. So exactly, and with that in mind, I think the second thing that I want to ask and I want to discuss with you is not only, like Christina, like you said, sharing or inputting private information into an AI, into a model, in a whatever private or business context, as a means to process and extract information within the existing data set, but how about the context in which the model becomes personalized with use? In the sense that, of course, every interaction is gonna be a two-way street, in which, and this is probably more so in the personal space, but it could be also in the business one, as in every time you interact and the model learns more about you and your own requests, maybe the concern isn't necessarily the privacy issue in that sense, but also the potential weaponization of that data set that's profiled to you and you alone. And I'd like your comments on this, or any thoughts on.
Yes, there are two aspects on this subject. One, threat actors can learn about you more easily than before AI, because they can gather information, public information about you very quickly. They can process a lot of information about you and your company and your employees and your partners and all the people you do business with, and they can create very specific and very believable payloads and phishing attacks, for example.
It's actually really probable that those models had all of this information in their training data set from the beginning. Yeah. So they don't have to do any kind of searching. They already have the info.
Yeah, and the second problem, the one you mentioned, if they manage to get access to that model that learn a lot of things about you, then it's more easy to
yeah, exactly. So kind of a more specific example of what I was thinking is the famous CEO email requesting something. At first it was maybe easier to catch, because maybe there was written by somebody who was not native in that particular language. Maybe you could catch on that it was with grammar mistakes or something didn't really sound correct. Now you're going to easily move into a space where that sounds perfectly accurate in whatever the language, but it doesn't sound like the CEO. But give it a minute and it could sound exactly like the CEO, because the CEO itself might have interacted with the model, and now we have enough data points in which it really sounds like the person. It has enough information that when that email comes, it's really believable. And this is the example that I have.
Same writing style, the length of the phrases, the use of certain terms. Yes. If you have that data, then you can trick any employee.
Actually, that's how I get my last raise from Dragoš. I just use that for it.
It's just easy. Work, right? You just know that.
Damn, I'm in the wrong team.
We're gonna put a guide in the the comments below
sure.
how to do the same for what was it, 20%?
Yeah, sure.
Fantastic.
Where it happens, right? But this actually emphasizes the need of some changes in terms of procedure within companies. So you cannot, do things because, hey, my boss just called me and he said I need to do this. And by the way, email, texting, those are one wave. If we're looking into voice cloning, if we're looking into, deep fakes, there are several attacks that actually rely on this one. I don't know, let's remember that there was a meeting in Hong Kong, I think, where, the CFO of the company enters, says, hey, you need to pay 25 millions into that account. And then he exits and they did it. They say, hey, the CFO said this. So clear procedure on how this or certain type of things should happen are going to appear. However, besides this, we are going to people are going to actually understand that some of the things might already be here. And actually, I would ask all of our viewers to do a small experiment. So just open your chat, if it's ChatGPT, if it's Gemini, whatever you're using, assuming you're using it for a larger period of time and you have like an account set to them, and ask them something like this: based on the conversation, based on the questions I have asked you up to this moment, what can you tell me about me? In so many cases, you would actually be surprised on what kind of answers you'll get, which actually roughly translate that some of these things are already being learned. Yeah, maybe there isn't a direct link, there isn't a direct information that you can get to, but it's something we all need to be aware of. This is actually why most of this added the temporary chat, so that none of this information are going to be reused for anything else.
But then if it's not like that, it's no longer personal and useful in the future. You kind of want it personalized, and that's why I hope that we get to a point where local versions that are siloed become available in a way that's practical, which isn't today. But you really want that kind of personalization. You want that kind of interaction because it really gives you, and if you've been around people that are heavily relying on a model or another today, and I have a few friends who are power users, I gotta say, that's exactly what they prefer. And this is just the beginning. Can you imagine, and of course, you talk to whoever you talk to, like, okay, kids are gonna be, learning and interacting with a model and another constantly every day, and that's going to build who they are and it's going to build them into. So knowing this, of course, we're just scraping the surface, and then that's exactly what makes this fascinating, but it also makes it completely scary, which is not what we're here to do. And I want to ask you one more thing. Knowing that, when it comes to attacks, be it, and we browsed a couple of examples we went through, obviously we have, the scams and, the phishing types of attacks, which benefit greatly from using AI currently. And then moving to, the capabilities of writing code and being able to write payloads and doing, writing ransomware and infiltrating, doing different things. AI is fantastically useful for attackers. And it's automating and making things much simpler and easier for exactly those tasks that require the labor of the attacker. Just, repetition, having to, write heavy amounts of, text or follow-ups and so on. Just thinking about the lover boy and whatever, those can be fully automated today. And it just could be. So now you can see, obviously more prevalent attacks, more powerful, in the sense that they can, they can be incessant and automated fully night and day. So, it's a bonanza for the attacker. Is it the same for defense? And of course, and I know we already talked a little bit about how we're currently using the capabilities, but looking forward, what kind of cat and mouse game are we looking at?
So my estimation, obviously, everything that they can do, we can also do in the same arm, but as a protective measure. And for sure, we can actually use them to identify a potential attack. One of the things that I kind of see an immediate scope is data analytics. So, let's think about it. EDR, XDR solution grab a lot of telemetry, a lot of data, maybe too much for anybody to actually search within it. But having this type of technology that will actually allow us to quickly search something there, just like Alex said, for a SOC team, might maybe even more automated, will definitely help.
And preliminary results are great and promising, right?
Great. Yeah. But and that's one side of the coin. There are, however, two others that we will need to emphasize here. As you said, maybe smaller models that could actually run on maybe powerful computers will be available soon, and this will be helpful. Take into consideration that there is now this current where every laptop will actually converge into an AI PC. That's the new definition. So pretty much we can expect, not necessarily right now, but in the years to come, that everybody will start using an AI PC, meaning that, and the terms AI PC means it's a PC with enough hardware to actually host not necessarily the highest or the largest model, but a reasonable sized one that you can use for different tasks. So then it will be very interesting, because this type of edge computing could actually be used. Now the third thing I would say will be interesting is the use of agentic AI. So building agents that will actually adjust to everything that happens in the market in terms of analyzing the attack and try to either find a defensive mechanism or notify in some way, or actually build another defense. Now I know for sure that we're already working on something similar. It's even for the for the SOC team. I will let Alex to actually tell you more about this subject in terms of how this type of agents could actually be used for different type of protection and detection of this type of attack.
Yeah, so the whole flow with agentic AI is that you can build agents for probably anything that you can interact with in the normal sense. So having agents that are dedicated and having a brain for those agents, a brain that can deep think and reason with all the latest developments in these models, and have generate a really comprehensive plan when analyzing the data related to the potential attack or whatever we want to do. Having a really good plan that can be executed step by step by multiple agents, and then pass that plan to other agents that can think of a smaller plan that, hey, I can do this even better than the broad description that you gave us. So it's a really powerful tool, and we had a lot of experiments with this. We're constantly experimenting with this, and the results are, well, they're going to speak for themselves in a few months, but we think we can definitely scale as fast as the attackers and actually build a good defense. Now, another angle we're currently exploring is all this LLM craze and all the world of AI. Just everyone looks at LLMs and okay, the full attention is there, but there's also a lot of places you can still apply AI in different methods. So one technology we're having right now in the oven is called Phaser, and what this technology does is analyzes your behavior on your local machine and then offers recommendations to what elements we can stop, what attack surfaces on your local machine we can stop, what tools you don't use, so that even if an attacker has a whole suite of automated tools like LLMs and it attacks you, it doesn't have the full expected attack surface available, so it cannot move as quickly as he expects to.
So live off the land attacks type things, where instead of having an admin spend a lot of time trying to figure out what the surface is, the technology is going to
learning,
be able to
ultimately learning what you use, what you don't use, and then stopping whatever you don't use from ever being used, even in a malicious context or not.
Sounds simple, right?
Sounds like a dream come true. Sounds like a dream come true, honestly.
Yeah.
But it's and this is very individual. It's very specific to that particular.
And if you think about it, it is machine learning that runs on the
Yep.
local component doesn't necessarily require a cloud component. Can do things based on the local resources, and we're getting there. So obviously some things are going to change, but the type of technology that Alex was talking about should actually help a lot of people.
I find it fascinating just because going on the rule space, which is always generic, and somebody gets upset that that particular rule doesn't work well with that particular case because they have this very specific need for a specific a service that doesn't help anybody else. And now you're saying that there's going to be a technology that's going to be able to be aware of that and just profile things in a way that's I find that fascinating and exciting, and I'd love to
So it's a really,
dive more into it.
if you
Whatever
analyze it, the idea is pretty simple.
Yeah.
But the implementation has a really big impact, and it lets
Yep.
you really adapt to a new organization and not, destroy their operations with the improper rule or anything.
But we like to say that we're fighting fire with fire. Yes, they are using AI, so we're also using AI. We're trying to do this better. So that's the that's the difference that we're aiming for.
And that's from the defensive side, and of course, in the meantime, we're gonna obviously keep looking from a forensics angle at what we're seeing from both the individual and from the business side of things, consumer side of things, but also from the state side of things as well, trying to understand how these tools are obviously being used. And are we playing a catch-up game, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily, but it is interesting to see how they leverage this powerful technology on their behalf. I think the main point where they are using is to learn more quickly about something, either a technical subject, either a potential victim, either on how to create something very specific for the victim. Everything moves very fast now. So, for example, the process where they study a victim before they launch an attack, before AI could have taken 4 months, 5 months, depending on the target and how complex the target and the attack was. Using AI, I think, can be reduced in just a few days, because AI is able to ingest so many data and to extract the relevant information very quickly. Before, they had to scrape the internet, to check the logs, to extract manually the information that is relevant for them. Now they have the AI which does that automatically.
And what I think is interesting is it's AI in general has been embraced over the last couple of years with a lot of excitement, which is great. I'm not going to ask you about AGI just yet. I'll leave that for a future episode. It's going to be one of those things where we're talking a couple of years, but maybe it can be in a few months. However, it seems that obviously AI has taken us all by surprise. We've all embraced it way too soon, and now we have to deal with it. So just as everybody else is trying to figure it out to their best of interest and best use cases that they can think, we're obviously spending a lot of time here at Bitdefender and in the industry to try to employ this to both make our work more effective and the results better, but also kind of staying ahead of the curve. So I want to just throw it out to you individually as to whether it's something that you're excited about, something that you really think of deeply, or something that preoccupies you about the space without influencing me and influencing you in any way with my guidance. So, Christina, what's your preoccupation in looking forward in this space?
I think the state we are in right now, it's similar with what were dealing when the supply chain attacks started. Because it's a new attack surface, it's new risks that are introduced with the use of AI. It's new for everyone. So I think that the fact that we are focusing now on analyzing different type of attack surfaces will be very beneficial for this subject in the future, because using AI introduces a different type of attack surfaces, and we have to contain and to learn about it and to contain it.
It's awesome. Alex, what's your biggest preoccupation?
Well, I'm a bit captured about the technology itself and how fast it evolves. Well, I've been watching this space for 4 or 5 years constantly right now. So, it's an LLM war. It's a constant AGI. Who speeds up faster towards AGI, and I'm always curious about what is going to be the next thing I'm going to see tomorrow in the headlines. Who releases the coolest LLM? What capabilities we can use further so we can automate things internally and protect our customers. So I'm really excited about this technology.
And just like, just like every builder that spends their time, and you'll find in every coffee shop in San Francisco and around the world currently working on the new whatever AI tool, gimmicks, app, and so on. It seems that every effort is towards this direction, and it kind of feels great to know that, we're producing the same research as well. Dragos.
Well, I try to see AI as a coin, and every coin has two faces. On the one hand, we can definitely look about the excitement of everything that the promise of AI could actually bring. On the other hand, we need to understand that everything will come with a risk. And I think if we're looking at this conversation, Alex and Christina kind of nuanced those two parts of the coin. Now, for us, we need to be, let's say, realistic, meaning that we need to think about both of them, how this can actually help somebody, our customers in particular, but at the same time we need to think about how a malicious actor could actually use it. So we need to be vigilant, we need to better understand everything related to AI, but both for us to use it and both for our customers to protect them. So it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a very interesting time, and I do look forward. But with this in mind, it's not just the good stuff. It's also the bad stuff that came along, and we need to be realistic about it and clearly understand it. And in terms of our customers, put their privacy and their security on the first place. And always think like this.
Awesome. As a context in general, the time that we're recording this in a very fast-pacing world is at the time when one of the main products out there is allowing people to generate image with Ghibli style, I believe. So for people to have a little pin on the timeline of where we're at today, and this, whenever you see this episode or listen to this episode in a few weeks, then you'll know. And we're gonna revisit the subject probably very soon as well, as we see progress and change. But I think the conclusion today is that we're as excited and as hungry to learn more about what AI has brought into the space and into the world, and we're looking forward to seeing how it's going to help us and help our customers in the future stay safe. So with that in mind, I really want to thank you again for joining me. Thank you for the work that you do. And thank you all for watching and listening. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much.